What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Evolution Cup running a triple Purified team. Now we're going to be running return on all three Pokemon. They have extremely fast charging, fast moves, so we're going to be getting to the return super fast, and a lot of people just aren't going to respect the damage from return. And because this is a Purified themed team, we're going to be trying to land as many returns as possible, even if it is the better play to go for the lower energy charge moves. Now with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. Which Pokemon that currently doesn't have a Shadow or Purified form available in the game do you think would benefit massively if it gained access to return? Let me know in the comment section below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. So going into the first battle here, we lead Marshtomp into a Hakamoto, so that's not the best matchup for us. So I'm actually going to farm up and then switch, catch the charge move, because they throw straight away on the Nidorina. Nidorina is the bulkiest Pokemon on this team, and as well that switch does mean that we will bait out any ghost types if my opponent is running a ghost type, but it looks like they're not because they come in with Vigoroth. This is actually a good matchup for us. I'm going straight for the return. Return actually gets shielded. I really didn't expect that. A lot of the time people won't shield the first move from Nidorina because we do have that Poison Fang spam, and if they shield a Poison Fang and then let a return through, that will do huge damage. Now I'm going to come in with the Machoke. We do shield up in this matchup. We're going to overfarm just a little bit and then go for a Cross Chop. Cross Chop is enough to take out the Vigoroth from this range. We're going to see what my opponent comes in with now. They're going to come in with a Dragonair. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to a return before they go for their charge move, so we will have to shield a Body Slam. We're going to go for the return straight away now. Are they going to respect the damage? They're not, and we one-shot the Dragonair. They're going to come back in with the Hakamoto. I switch instantly, going for another return, and my opponent lets it go through again. And at this point, we're going to go for a charge move here, trying to force my opponent to throw their energy, but they're going to hold off. They need to get to back-to-back moves or farm me down, and they're not able to, and we do win that game. So GG's to that opponent there. You can see return, or going for the return, really paid off as my opponent didn't respect the damage. We're going to lead into a Dragonair, once again not the best matchup, so we're going to play exactly the same, switch, trying to catch a move. My opponent does throw anyway, and this isn't enough for a Dragon Pulse, so we will let it go through. They go for an Aqua Tail, so perhaps they're running Aqua Tail and Dragon Pulse, otherwise Body Slam is a little bit better. They come in with a Magneton here, and this is not a good matchup at all. They resist everything. We're going for the Poison Fang first. We're going to go for a return now, and even though it's resisted, we've debuffed their defense, and that does so much damage that they actually have to throw a charge move into us here, and that is fine. Discharge does take me out, but I can come in with the Marshtomp, farm them down, and come out with another return loaded. We're going to see my opponent come back in with the Dragonair. We're going straight for the return. Gets shielded again, so once again the risk not paying off, but we do have a charge move loaded, so we're going to shield this up and then switch into Machoke. My opponent is staying in. I'm predicting they've probably got a Vigoroth in the back because pretty much every team does. So we go for a Cross Chop, we get a shield. It was a CMP tie. Now here we're going to go for 5 Karate Chops before throwing the next Cross Chop here. Actually, we just go for 4. We're not sure if they did overfarm just a little bit, so we play it safe. We go for the Cross Chop as well. We barely have any health remaining. We barely get to another Cross Chop, and this will put the Vigoroth into range where we can go for a Mud Bomb, and Mud Bomb is going to be enough to take out the Vigoroth, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game here, we lead Marshtomp into a Lairon, so a very good lead for us. My opponent instantly swaps into Vigoroth. I actually switch into Nidorina here, thinking that because obviously Nidorina has such an awful matchup against a Lairon, I'm going to just make sure I get it out the way with now. And as well, the Machoke still does very well up against that Lairon, so if things do get a bit crazy, we should still be in a good position. We're going to go for a Poison Fang. My opponent lets it go through. They're probably going to come back in with the Lairon and farm me down. And that's exactly what they do. We will get to 1 Poison Fang before we go down, but this is triple resisted. They're probably going to instantly swap out of this matchup anyway. So actually no, they're going to go for a charge move. Perhaps their switch clock isn't quite up. They go for a Body Slam, they swap out. excuse me, into an Ivysaur, and now things are not looking good. If we'd have just come in with the Machoke up against the Vigoroth, we would be in a very good position. So here, I feel like I have to just go straight for the return and hope my opponent calls the bait, and they do. We land the return, we take them out, and at this point, we're going to be able to just fully Karate Chop, farm down this Lairon, and take this game. So I'm going to shield up here. There's no point spamming out charge moves. We would be able to get to 3, but we can easily Karate Chop, farm down the Lairon, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Vigoroth. So once again, we're going to try and catch the move on the Nidorina. We are successful. It is just a body slam, so it doesn't do too much damage, and now we do see the Haunter. This is really important that we get it out now. They're going to go for a charge move straight away. We will tank it. It's just a Shadow Punch. We're going for the Poison Fang bait. Very risky, but, well, actually, it's not that risky because we've only got return. If we had something like Thunderbolt, then maybe that would justify a shield, but my opponent calls the bait both times. We do lower their defense so that we should be able to one shield and then fully farm down this Haunter, but we're going to be in a very tricky situation, especially if they're running the team that I think they're running, which could be a double ghost team. So we're going to go for the return here. Return does land. It does huge damage. We switch into Machoke. We're not able to farm them out before they switch out, and they do have a Dusclops, and at this point, that's pretty much game over. There's nothing I can do. There's no point shielding here. I'm going to go for the Cross Chop. Both charge moves are going to be double resisted, so it doesn't really matter which ones I throw. I'm hoping that I can tank this and then just barely get to a return, but the new mechanic doesn't set in and I do not get the charge move off, and at this point there's literally no point me playing on because I am going to be losing this game. So we're just going to let them farm me down, but my opponent swaps out, make a pointless swap, so I think, you know what, I'll make a pointless throw, go for the return, we take out the Vigoroth, and then we are going to get farmed down there. So GG's to that opponent there. Double Ghost, I don't think there's any way I can beat it, unfortunately. But into the next game, we have a perfect lead here in the form of a Magneton Shadow. My opponent comes in with a Golbat. We don't have a clear answer. Actually, all 3 Pokemon kind of struggle with their fast moves and their well, regular charge moves, but return does huge damage. My opponent baits me with a Poison Fang. We're able to catch it on the Nidorina, get to our own Poison Fang before they get to a Shadow Ball, and at this point, to be honest, I have 2 very good answers to Magneton, so I'm going to let it go through. They bait me again. I'm going to overfarm. They're going to go for another Poison Fang. I'm not sure why they're doing this, but that is fine. We're going to go for another Poison Fang here. Are they going to shield it again? No, they do let it go through this time. They're going to come in with Magneton. I don't want to get farmed down, so I'm going to swap into Machoke. This is still a very good matchup, but Magnet Bomb will do huge damage, so I do shield it up. But fortunately for me, Machoke is a massive core breaker to the team because they come in with a Vigoroth and probably should have just stayed in there, to be honest, because now I'm going to have the marshtomp aligned with the Magneton, and we've got the Machoke to absolutely counter this Vigoroth. We're going to go for another charge move here. We take out the Vigoroth, and at this point I was going to try and go for a return, but my opponent does just concede the match, and yeah, there was nothing they could do there. Unfortunately, I just had a very good team composition there. Maybe they could have shielded the return on the Golbat, but otherwise, pretty tricky for them. We're going to stay in and then swap, catch the charge move once again on the Nidorina. It is a Body Slam. My opponent is going to stay in and get to another Body Slam, and at this point, I'm happy to just let Nidorina tank these moves. I should still be able to get to a return. They catch the move on a Golbat, but that's absolutely fine. Return does huge damage. It's just a regular Golbat, so it doesn't do as much as previously, but that is fine. I'm going to come in with the Marshtomp here. Unfortunately, we only have Mud Bomb and Return. Mud Bomb wouldn't take out the Golbat from this range, so we go for the return. We get a shield from our opponent, probably expecting a Surf, which would still KO, so that is unfortunately one of the disadvantages of running Mud Bomb, but I am running it just for those dragons because they are fairly common and Surf is resisted. Now we land the Mud Bomb, they go for a Poison Fang, we both swap at the same time. I'm going to get that extra Karate Chop through and we should be able to farm up to the back-to-back cross chops. Actually, we'll farm probably 1 over, and at this point they do get the energy for the Body Slam, but we have the back-to-back moves and we do win the CMP tie, and this just guarantees we've done enough Karate Chop damage so that we can take out the Vigoroth. We're going to see what my opponent comes in with next. It's a Zweilous, so once again, Machoke core breaking this opponent's team. We go for the Cross Chop, enough to take out the Zweilous, and we should be able to Karate Chop, farm down the Golbat, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into an Alolan Graveler, so a really good lead once again. Once again, my opponent swaps into the Golbat, so we're going to play this exactly the same. Go for a return straight away. My opponent lets it go through, so we're going to swap, catch the charge move on the Nidorina once again. Even if it's a Shadow Ball, which it's not, it wouldn't take us out or even threaten, so we are going to let it go through. We get to a Poison Fang before they get to the Shadow Ball. This time, my opponent actually just lets it go through, which is perfectly fine with me. They're going to come back in with Graveler. They have debuffed my defense, so they're going to overfarm a bit and then probably just go for a Rock Blast. We land a return, and at this point my opponent probably has near to 100 energy, so they are going to start offloading the energy. They go for the Rock Blast, it takes me out. They swap into Vigoroth. We have the Machoke, and once again Machoke just core breaking these teams. So many teams double weak to the fighting typing, and it is really nice because I'm running the Machoke here. So we go for a Cross Chop. We get the shield from the Vigoroth. We have the back-to-back loaded, so we're going to go straight for another one. We get both shields from this Vigoroth, and at this point we can shield this, and we should be able to get to another Cross Chop on the CMP type with the Body Slam. This will easily take out the Vigoroth. They are very low, and at this point there's no point switching out. Actually, I'm just going to stay in. My opponent's going to try and farm me down, but they're not able to, and I do get to one more Cross Chop, and I take out the Alolan Graveler, and I take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead Marshtomp into a Celio, so not the best lead for me here. So once again, I'm going to try and catch the move on the Nidorina. This time my opponent doesn't go for a Body Slam straight away. Either way, I'm going to let this charge move go through. They do go for the Aurora Beam. It doesn't do an awful lot of damage. We're going to go straight for the return. This will do huge damage, but Nidorina isn't that attack weighted, so it doesn't quite take them out, and they are able to get to a charge move. Body Slam takes me out, but at this point I can come back in with the Marshtomp, Mud Shot, farm them down, and you guys already know that we're going to be very close to another return here, so I'm going to go straight for it here up against the Celio. It lands, it does a lot of damage, but Celio is a very bulky Pokemon. We're going to let the charge move go through and then instantly swap into the Machoke. My opponent has the same idea, they swap into Vigoroth. Unfortunately, we get a 1-turn switch, whilst my opponent's switch is a 0-turn switch, but that doesn't matter. We'll still get to the back-to-back Cross Chops before they get to back-to-back Body Slams, and now this is going to be a CMP tie if they throw, but they choose not to. Cross Chop gets the second shield from my opponent, and once again we're still in a very good position. We will get to the final Cross Chop on the CMP tie, and this is once again taking out the Vigoroth, and at this point we should be easily able to Karate Chop, farm them down, but my opponent does get to another charge move. But that's fine, we still have energy on the Marshtomp. We get to a Mud Bomb, and Mud Bomb easily going to be enough to take out the Celio from this range, and we take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead Marshtomp into a Zweilous. So once again, we're going to play this exactly the same. Go for 6 Mud Shots and then try to catch the charge move. My opponent holds on to their energy, and then they eventually swap into a Golbat. Shadow Golbat as well, so this return will do huge damage if they let it go through, but they shield it up, and that is fine. They're going to overfarm a ton, and they get to a charge move here. We're actually going to shield this up. It is a Shadow Ball, so a very good shield. We go for another return, and this will do huge damage, and at this point, we're going to let them throw their energy. It's just a Poison Fang. Poison Fang is resisted. We're going to get to another Poison Fang of our own, and this will be taking out the Golbat from this range. And we do maintain switch advantage here. They come back in with Zweilous here. They actually swap into a Charge Bug, and this is kind of tricky. We're going to let this discharge go through. We go for the return here, and return will do huge damage if it lands, and it does land, but unfortunately this is a very spammy Pokemon. They get to another charge move. X-Scissor takes me out. We're going to come in with the Marshtomp, farm them down. We could easily go for a Mud Bomb spam, but we go for the return, and return gets shielded, and this is one of the scenarios where it's not going to pay off going straight for the return. We could have easily just gone for 3 Mud Bombs, played it extremely safe, and actually 2 Mud Bombs does ever so slightly more damage than a return. But unfortunately, they do get to a Dark Pulse, they take out my Marshtomp, and they're able to Dragon Breath, farm down the Nidorina, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Fletchinder, or pretty much never see that Pokemon, so not really sure what to do. They swap into a Celio, we're going straight for the return, it lands, and now I can swap into Machoke and then just fully Karate Chop, farm down the Celio, we will have to tank 2 body slams, but body slam isn't going to be enough to take out this Machoke, so I will let the second one go through, and we're going to be very close to a return once again, and we're going to go for it up against the Fletchinder here. Return lands, it nearly one-shots them. We're going to come back in with the marshtomp after waiting out our switch clock, and at this point I think we should be able to mudshot farm them down after they throw a charge move, but they switch into Vigoroth here. I'm going to swap, catch the charge move on my Nidorina once again. It is just a body slam here, and now I'm going to go build up all the way for a return. My opponent is actually going to go straight for a body slam once again, not even going to build up for that bulldoze. We're actually going to bait them with a poison fang. We didn't do this very often, and my opponent does no shield it, so if we went for the return, that would have done huge damage, but my opponent is going to start shielding now. We're able to get to another return before my opponent is able to fully counter farm me down. I'm going to swap here into marshtomp. We get the mudshot through. Even if they have back-to-back, this mudshot will take out the Vigoroth, and I know this Fletchinder is very low on energy, but I'm just going to go straight for the mud bombs. We do have 2 of them, and mud bomb is enough to take out this Fletchinder here and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we lead into a Vigoroth. You guys know the drill. We're going to swap, try and catch the charge move. My opponent actually throws 1 counter later, but they still go for a body slam, so I think we still sort of count that as a catch. They're going to come in with Haunter. We will live this move here. Going to farm up to the return and then go for a Poison Fang bait. We're really hoping we can get a shield here. And we are able to get a shield from this Haunter, which is really nice. We get to another Poison Fang. They're going to let this one go through. It doesn't do an awful lot of damage, but they are double debuffed. So we're going to come in with the Marshtomp. We know we don't win CMP up against a Haunter. We're going to overfarm just a little bit. Go for the Mud Bomb here. We do have the back-to-back. So we're going to see my opponent no shield the move here. They're going to come in with Golbat. This is still very tricky. We're going to CMP tie with a Poison Fang. We go for the return. It lands. It does a lot of damage. But once again, this is a regular Golbat, so it doesn't do as much as up against the Shadow. But they swap out into a Vigoroth, and this is going to give me a chance to win this game. We can shield the Body Slam here. Go for a cross chop on the CMP tie. Unfortunately, we didn't get a karate chop through on the previous move, but it doesn't matter. We can tank a body slam, and we're actually going to wait until we're extremely low before we throw the cross chop, and at this point we will be in range for the Golbat to wing attack farm me down in just 1 move. So we give them as little farm as possible. We're going for the Mud Bomb here. Is this going to be enough to take out the Golbat? Yes it is, and we do take that game. So a very close game there. So GG's to that opponent. Into the next game, we lead into a Haunter. So this should be a good matchup, but actually we will lose the 2 shield scenario. So it is in my opponent's hands what they want to do. We're actually just not going to shield the first one. It's just a Shadow Punch. It doesn't do that much damage. We're going for a Mud Bomb. We get a shield. It's a CMP tie to the next charge move. We're going to shield this up to just guarantee we get a shield or take out this Haunter, because Haunter is very difficult to deal with. We do get both shields, but this is looking to be extremely difficult for me now. We're going to come in with Nidorina. It is bulkier than the Machoke. They go for an Ice Punch. It does more damage than a Shadow Punch, so that is the correct play by my opponent. We go for a Poison Fang. It really doesn't do an awful lot of damage whatsoever. We're going to let this charge move go through and then swap into Machoke. Hold on to that Poison Fang. It might be useful in the end game. They're going to come in with a Shadow Golbat. Really wasn't expecting a double Poison team, so this is going to be very tricky here. They go for a Poison Fang. We have to start shielding at this point. We're going to overfarm just a little bit. Go for the return up against the Golbat. We take out the Golbat and they come in with a Vigoroth. We're barely able to get to a cross shot, but we just don't have enough health here. So we are going to go down to the counters. We have a Poison Fang loaded. Is this enough to take out the Vigoroth? No, it's not, and my opponent looks like they're lagging, but they're still able to get off the charge move, and they are going to be able to take me out with a body slam and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Haunter very difficult in the lead, and we just weren't able to recover after that. Into the next game, we lead into a Vigoroth. You guys know the drill. We're going to catch the move on the Nidorina. They go for a body slam, of course. They're going to swap into a Zweilous here, so I'm actually just going to let them throw another charge move Body Slam won't take me out and I will be able to get to a return. I don't really expect my opponent to shield in this matchup, so we should be fine here. We go for the return, it does land, and it's going to put them in range where we're actually going to be able to karate chop, farm down this wireless before they get to another charge move, and that is great because we're going to come out with quite a lot of energy. We've seen Vigoroth in the lead, so we're actually in a pretty good position here. They come in with a Dragonair, we're going straight for the return. We land it, in nearly one-shots, we swap into the marshtomp. We're going to go for another return. Are they going to respect the damage or are they going to shield? They do actually shield that return there, so they're going to start using their charge moves finally. They've probably seen 2 returns land. They're thinking, oh my gosh, is this guy going straight for a return? And the answer is yes, we're going to go straight for another return. Will we land it? Unfortunately not. They do shield it up, but we're still in a good position to close here. We're going to let the Body Slam go through, it takes me out. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to one more return, so I just settle for a cross chop, but cross chop still able to take out the Vigoroth, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there, and into the final battle here, we lead into another Zweilous. So you guys know what we're going to do. We're going to try and catch the charge move on the Nidorina. My opponent over farms. They actually still don't farm to the Dark Pulse, so this should still be a Body Slam, and it is. They're going to swap into an Alolan Graveler. Not an ideal situation for me because both my other Pokemon are much stronger in this matchup, but we're going to go for a Poison Fang. If they go for a Rock Blast, we will actually make it to a return, and because we've debuffed their defense, this return will do massive damage here. Actually, it doesn't do that much damage, but it does put them very low, to the point where we can just Mud Shot farm them down very comfortably. We're going to tank a Stone Edge. That does quite a lot of damage actually. My opponent is going to come back in with these wireless here. We go straight for the return. Return lands, it does huge damage. We swap into the Machoke and they have a Vigoroth in the back, and we have 2 shields remaining. So this is going to be a very comfortable end game for me. We shield up the Body Slam. We're going to farm to a ton of energy here. Go for one cross chop. We get the shield, we're going to go for a second cross chop, and from this range, this should be taking out the Vigoroth, and we can easily karate chop, farm down the Zweilous, and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. So that's going to be it for today's video. Overall, I had a ton of fun running this team. Maybe a little bit too much fun, as you will see a few times where I probably could have played it safe and gone for the lower energy charge moves, but instead go for a risky return and had it shielded, and it did end up costing me the matches. But even then, I still enjoyed those battles. Unfortunately, it was very weak to ghosts, and especially the double ghost line. I did see it maybe 3 or 4 times. I think I lost every single time, unfortunately. There's not a lot I can do, but it is a theme team. We're not going to be able to cover everything in the meta, and aside from those ghost types, it's actually a very strong team, especially when we do have that surprise return nuke factor on every single Pokemon. Now, on top of the shoutouts from the question of the day, I'm also going to be shouting out everyone that is able to correctly guess the number of times I threw return in this video and the number of times it went unshielded. So make sure you comment that in the comment section below, as well as responding to the question of the day. And if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you give it a like, and also if you want to see more content like this in the future, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications, so that way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And with that being said, let's get into the shoutouts from my previous video. So firstly, we got Nitesh Kumar, who mentions Lucario is not that strong in any of the open leagues, but it is very strong and actually dominant in quite a few of the themed cups, especially the Sinnoh Cup. Next, we got Chris JK, who mentions Electrode. It's a Pokemon that sees absolutely no play in the open leagues, but almost everyone has one built for the themed cups because it's an extremely strong save swap when you get rid of those types that often hard counter it. Next, we got Slow Season, who says Hypno, as it dominates in a ton of limited metas. It's kind of funny because Hypno used to be very strong in the Open Great League, but the meta has shifted quite a bit so that Hypno doesn't really see an awful lot of play, but it is still extremely strong in so many of these themed cups. Next, we got Ben Laver, who says Crustle is a meta king in the Halloween Cup, also very strong in the Love Cup and a few other cups as well, but doesn't see an awful lot of play in the Open Great League. So with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.